Welcome to Legacy Conversations, a channel where we preserve military memories and history.
Hello, Internet. I'm excited and I have reason to be because we're going to talk about the Cheetah program. Now, I'm not too sure how to describe this aircraft. I always describe it as the Mirage Cheetah, but some people say that's wrong. It should be the Atlas Company Mirage Cheetah or something like that. I don't know technically exactly, but I've got someone here who can tell us. And that would be Cmdt Rynier Skeet. Keet. And I'm very glad that you are here, sir. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. I will ask you, though, can you just give us a brief background of yourself, your time in the South African Air Force, and how this aircraft came into being? And then I know you were also a commander of 5 Squadron. You were flying these things, the Cheetahs. This is a fantastic aircraft. I believe it's got Mirage 2000 parts in it. Fly-by-wire, perhaps. I've heard that as well. But you're the expert, sir. Thank you for being here. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be part of this. I really appreciate it. And it's been nice chatting to you in this introduction that we had before this was exceptional. Thank you very much for that background. Yeah, I joined the Air Force in 1969. I was at Pupes Course 269. And I served for about 22 years. It exciting time. And, should I have my life over again, I think I'd do the same. Like I think many youngsters, the firemen and the police phases of my life, and I think at the age of 6 or so, there was nothing else that I wanted to do but fly. And I think that's for most of the colleagues that were part of the time when I was there. And I think even the youngsters today do it for exactly the same thing. So we were, I think, third or fourth, I'm not 100% sure, course I did our training on impalas. So we went straight there. And after impalas, I was fortunate, we were the last course to fly vampires, did my OTC on vampires, which was another story and quite an exciting time. From there on, I went to my first squadron, which was 4 Squadron, and there did Harvard conversion. So SWAT course, because they wanted us to transfer from Harvard to Impalas when 4 Squadron went across to Waterkloof. After that, instructed on Harvard, instructed on Impalas at Langebaan, and then in 77 went to Petersburg, flew Sabres, and went on the Mirage course. After the Mirage course, there were go to either to F1s or F3s at Hoedspruit. Hoedspruit was brand new. Well, it wasn't operating at that stage yet. And I chose that I would like to go on to Mirage 3s as one of my the aircraft that I really wanted to fly was Mirage 3 CZ, which is really the modern day Spitfire in my mind. So it was agile, it was nice, it was light, some old technology, but an exciting aircraft to fly. It was during that time that in the late 70s, so it was 78 that I went to Hoedspruit, so we were the first squadron there as 2 Squadron, the Flying Cheetahs. During that time, obviously the war and the border war was going on. Because of it was always a timing thing. I never really spent much time on the border at that time, as the Impala squadrons went there once I'd left, and I was really instructing. So the challenges that we had at that stage were very much technology-wise, in terms of the fact that aircraft were really old, except for the F1s. The systems were really there were no systems, so we can't really speak about them. And it was so there were challenges, and due to the sanctions, we couldn't get the technologies that we require. We couldn't get new aircraft, so we had to upgrade those aircraft that we had. So we had the Mirage 3s, the E's, the D's, the D2s, the R's and R2s. So it was decided then to upgrade the Mirage 3s. The C itself had a different engine and was and wasn't really the focus of the upgrade. So the upgrade was really at that stage on the Mirage 3E and the D's D2s really. So that was really the first Cheetah project, and that's obviously not known as a Cheetah project. It was Project Brahman, and it really looked at those aircraft. It's our aircraft. How do we upgrade them and so on? So the squadron was given the task to write the operation requirement, and that was in 1981. And I really volunteered to do the project at that stage. It sounded like something exciting to do, and I went to our OC at that time, which was Commandant Mac van der Merwe, and he said, yes, I can go and speak to Colonel Pierce Steyn, who later became General Steyn, and he was the senior staff officer for projects at Air Force headquarters. I then flew there, and on the 24th of June, 1981, looking at my logbook, I had this meeting with Colonel Steyn, and at that stage we were all very skeptical because we've had these smaller upgrade programs. They helped a little bit, but not very much. So he said that there is budget, and that the Air Force is very serious about a major upgrade for the Mirage 3s. I then went and back to the squadron and told them what the decision was, and we started working. I was introduced to Arms Corps, and there Mr. Erich Estreisen, who was the head of the aircraft division, introduced me to Kevin Lawless, who was then the project officer, and the two of us were told to get the ball rolling. We looked at various ways. They said that the South African industry must play a role, and we thought, okay, we'll get smaller companies and so on involved. But Atlas and Kentron, who were the major players at that stage, had other ideas, and the captain in the Air Force was definitely not going to change their ideas. But what they then did was that they co-opted or subcontracted the smaller companies where the expertise really lay, and they helped with the research and setting up everything for us. There were really three when we looked at the initial part. There was Thomson CSF, there was Marconi in England, Thomson obviously in France, and then the Israelis that were possible suppliers of the hardware. So we visited France, we visited England, visited Israel in April 1982. I went across to Israel and flew some sorties with Menachem Shmuel, who was the chief test pilot for IAI at that stage. It was really just navigation flights. I also really realized then how small the country was, because he said, you better pull some G now, else we're out of the country. So the challenges, their own challenges, I think was quite evident at that time as well. In September '82, I went and flew some flights with the Air Force, and did some bombing sorties and so on. And in the Kafirin it was very it was an eye opener to see, if you have the right systems, how accurate you can throw a bomb. So that was, I think, an experience in itself for someone like me. The yeah, it started a relationship, but it was a really a hard working period to really try and be objective, so and to get all the inputs that we required. So I spent a lot of time with some of the other squadrons. 24 Squadron, they were very operational at that time. They gave us a lot of good operational information that we could use as part of the study. The F1 squadrons, both the AZs, 3 Squadron and 1 Squadron, with the F1 AZ and CZs, they gave us a lot of input as well. And then we visited quite a number of the pilot squadrons to hear what is it that the young pilots would like to see, and to really give them some feedback on what was going on and where we were heading. So there was really quite an exciting period in the Air Force at that time, and everybody was looking forward to it. So the support we had was exceptional from industry, from the Air Force itself, and then from the squadrons. And without that, the input that we got there, I think we wouldn't have gotten where we wanted to be. And it had to be a solution that met the requirements and the aspirations of the pilots who were going to fly them. So that was the basically the research part of it. And we also, because we could not change the engine due to budget, so it was very much an airframe electronics upgrade. And so it was really a tactical aircraft and not an air superiority fighter. So it still had the challenges of power due to it, but there were some other options as well. So we got some other officers. Commandant Peter Vier, who was a F1 pilot, a 3 pilot instructor, and an engineer in electronics. So he headed the Air Force's technical team, along with Captain Jan Pelser, who was he was technical officer at 3 Squadron, if I'm not wrong, and also an electronic engineer. And then Derek Knoll was the industry electronic engineer, also that was also part of the team. So those were really the brains behind the project that put together. So we concluded the staff requirement phase at the end of 1983, and then I had to go and present the findings to the Senior Command Council. I think at that stage I would rather have gone into an operational mission than walk into that boardroom, because I don't think there was all the generals were there, all the brigadiers were there, and yet I tell you, I was scared at that stage. It was daunting, but we did the presentation and we said there are 3 options. There's the Thomson CF option, there's the Marconi option, and then there's the IAI option. The Marconi option was a thin little book, a couple of pages. I only looked at the sight, really the gun sight, and that part there of display. The Thomson CSF one wasn't much thicker, so we went, say, from from 2.5 centimeters to 5 centimeters. And then we presented the II proposal, which was more than a meter high in volumes. I think there were 8 volumes as thick as this. And so just in terms of that, by weight, it was a better proposal. So everybody, there was an easy decision, I think, for senior command to make. And then in the first half of 83, the contract negotiations started. The Comscore really under the leadership of Eric and Kevin Lourdes, they really ran that whole part, and we were just spectators. The other person at that stage also started joining was Chris Jacobs, who did the admin, finance, and so on from an Arms Corps perspective. And I must say at this stage, it is always a rivalry between the military and Arms Corps and so on. But I must say that I had the most wonderful time with these guys. They made life so easy for us in the sense of taking bureaucracy away, all the layers of decision making. We could act fast. They managed the finances. We didn't have to worry about that. The budget obviously was Air Force budget, and they did a pretty excellent job. So with us focusing on operationally and them focusing on the project management and so on part, we made a very good team from that perspective. Then in June 1983, I left the squadron in December 82, went to Pretoria for 6 months to do the final wrap-up. And then in June 83, Kevin Jacobs and myself left for Israel to start the project office. During just before that, just some notes that come to mind is I was mentioning the Arms Corps side of it, but we had a top command, which I had the greatest respect for. I worked for bosses which were just exceptional. Brigadier Zach Repsold, can't find a better officer, gentleman, rainy guy, who was head of projects at that stage. Colonel Jan Geit, later became Brigadier General. So I think he died just 2 weeks ago. So a most wonderful person. He was one of my commanders at Donato when I was there. He was then took over from Steyn, and he really had an energy in him, and just ran around and made sure that everything worked. And nothing was too much for him. So the army at that stage had a project for some form of vehicle that they wanted to call the Cheetah. But at that stage, the Squadron, if you look historically, the Cheetah is associated with 2 Squadron, with the Air Force, the Flying Cheetahs with the so the Cheetah was really a name for that had to stay with the Air Force. And Jan Geit took it right up to the Senior Defense Command fighting for the Cheetah name, which he then won the battle. It took a while. The army didn't want to relinquish the name in the beginning. And then, obviously, I think reason prevailed. And that's where the Cheetah name came from. It's 2 squadrons, Cheetah Squadron. The aircraft, once operational, would have gone to 2 Squadron at that stage. So there was really no argument. And then, so Jan Geit played a major role in that spot, obviously supported by Zach himself. We then, in July, we set up the project office there. And then soon after that, they flew over an LL freighter and we loaded 2 aircraft onto this aircraft. It was 820 was the EZ that was the one prototype, and 845 was the D2Z, which was the two-seater prototype. And 845 would play a major role because of the all the technology that was in it from a flight test perspective. So we loaded it at, I think, 2 o'clock in the morning at Jan Smuts at that stage, and then flew the 2 aircraft, the 2 airframes to Israel. So that was then the first part. So that was in the middle of 83. And then on the 2nd of May, 1984, Menachem Shmuel and myself took off for the first test flight. I sat in the back, quite exciting, and we flew, and it was a 40-minute flight that we came back, and everything went as planned. On the I think 17th of May, did the second flight with Nachum Yerli. He was then the allocated test pilot to the project, and I flew many flights along with him, and which was interesting and nice. And the only flight that I was really concerned about was in December, the 30th of December in 84, when we were testing the refueling system, and we were over the Mediterranean, and I could see the Nile and Egypt and that side. It's quite small there in that sense, and he couldn't, due to I don't know what nerves or whatever, he couldn't get the probe into the nozzle, and we were fighting. It was going up and down and in and out, and well, not in, but mostly out, and the fuel gauges just went down and down and down. So, wow, if we don't plug in now, we're going to be quite wet. And they briefed him and they coached him, and then the last effort, we wouldn't have had another effort. He managed to get the probe in, and we refueled. So that was really the only excitement in terms of something that may have gone wrong during the whole test flights to start with. They were extremely professional. Everything was exceptionally well planned. We worked well together. Obviously, we had our arguments and disagreements, but it was an interesting time. I did some even courses during that age. I could basically understand what they were saying, specifically in the aviation environment. So that was really nice. And then one of the highlights, I flew and when they test flew some of the skywalks. I had quite a number of flights in the skywalk with Ueli, which was really exciting and nice as well. And then I was walking into a meeting with Arms Corps and the senior management of IAI, and I don't think they wanted me there because as part of that meeting, because as they walked in, they came and said, "Oh, there's a phantom flight, and there's a backseat open whether I wanted to do it." So I thought, I couldn't care what they do now. I'm going to fly the Phantom. So we went and I had the most wonderful flight, and I think that was the Phantom with the larger engines, and it was just extraordinary. So there were many highlights there. The families really enjoyed it. It was we had a special time. We were looked after well. Did a lot of scuba diving in Red Sea, so everybody really enjoyed it. The rand dollar more or less 1 to 1 at that stage, We got an overseas allowance, which at the 1.1 or something. So we had more money than we thought we could. So it was a good life that we had there. It was exciting in terms of flying. We learned an exceptional with regards to aviation, what they did, the challenges of the country, its people, and so on. Looking back now, that part of life was good. So the aircraft then went back in February '87 to South Africa. So we had the D2 and the E. The E's test flight went on in parallel. We weren't allowed to fly there, so fly the single seater. So they did that. I attended all flight briefings and debriefings and so on. So we were up to scratch exactly what went on there. So that was all good. In the meantime, Anton Keet, Peter Verveer, and those, they were all back here, and they got the project team, and Atlas was busy getting themselves ready. And I think this is where the start of the Atlas Cheetah was going to be. Although the second Cheetah project, which Clive Turner was the project officer, that's the Cheetah C. And that's the one which you mentioned in the beginning, really, with the radar and all of the technology. So I wasn't part of that, and I really left the Air Force before that, when they came back. And the first real time that I saw them was when the squadron was closed, and I was invited to attend the closing ceremony, which was heartbreaking. Getting back to South Africa, Atlas started it. Otto Scheer was then the OC of '89, a flight school, and he and Des Barker, they were really did most of the test flights along with Peter Verveer. So the three of them really ran it, and Anton Keet ran the office while I was trying to get 5 Squadron off the ground. In the beginning, I said the Cheetah was going to go to 2 Squadron, which was the plan at that stage. But then when the Cheetah C came in, they decided C will go to 2 Squadron, and 5 Squadron would be taken out of mothballs again, and that would be the Cheetah E Squadron. We were the first squadron at Louis Trichardt. So I was fortunate in being the first squadron at Hoedspruit, and then the first squadron at Louis Trichardt, which was really an honor and another exciting. So you had a new aircraft, new technologies on a new Air Force base, and you had really free rein to establish it the way that you thought it should be. So the 852, I think, was the first one off that on 27th March in '87, flew then. And then that was the first time that I flew coming back to in South Africa. And then I flew with Major Johan Venter, who was then at '89 an instructor there. He quickly checked me out on the duel, and then the very next sortie we got back in again, and then I did some bombing and proved the accuracy of the systems. So that was really nice as well. So I was still at head office headquarters at that stage, so I drove through to Petersburg every now and then to supply. 820 was then assembled, and I then had the privilege to fly 820 from Atlas directly to a weapons camp in Uppington, which was that was nice, and also the air-to-air camp. I flew to Longabon. They're not Uppington. We did Uppington after that, and for an air-to-air camp, and there again the accuracy of the systems and so on were also exceptional. Just in terms of quickly, the Cheetah E, we changed the wings. It got the canards on. It was not a full-size canard like you get on the computer, a slightly smaller one, which enhanced the immediate instantaneous turning performance. Exceptional turning velocity, and which was none of the other aircraft could turn. But we didn't have the engine, so the sustainability of that turn was not possible because we didn't upgrade the engine. There were some additional hard points on it, 2 additional bombing stations up front. So those were and then total change of avionics, lovely system, avionics system, a ranging radar that helped with the accuracy, a new Mark 10 ejection seat, which I unfortunately had the privilege to test. So that was, I must say, quite ana in terms of my back, but a month or what afterwards we flew again, so that was nice. So it was the upgrade was really very good. It was $1 billion project. So at that stage, one of the largest projects that we had. So coming back, we came to Louis Trichardt, and it was, I think that it was in 87 and so on. That we landed there. I'll get the dates now. But in the meantime, some of the aircraft, the first 827, which went overseas, was the first one, I think, that flew in on the 7th May 1987, which was exactly 3 years and a couple of days, 5 days after the first test flight that we did in May. So that was then off there, and then we had 829. I did the test flight from Atlas. They didn't tie one of the screws on the hydraulic line, so there was a hydraulic leak. When I landed, there was no brakes on the right hand side wheel. So it was a very short landing. It went off the runway, hit a culvert, broke off the undercarriage, and closed the 03 left runway for 3 to 4 hours, to the annoyance, I think, of the civilian airlines and so on. But we walked away. It was just one of those unfortunate things. So that was the only real incident at that stage. The aircraft flew not very long after that, flew again. So that was really just some of the test flight parts. So if we just think as well and look at the Otto Scheer and his team did exceptionally well in terms of getting pilots off the ground, training, establishing all the training systems, the flight simulators. Ian Jones was in charge of the flight simulators. So that was so they did an exceptional job with regards to that. Then at the end, just as we went to Fire Squadron and at Louis Trichardt, Carlo Fagiano, who was the last, was the OC, then became the OC of 89, took over from Otto, and then I then left for Fire Squadron from Pretoria. So on the 3rd of March 1988, at 17:30, I see in my logbook, I landed 820 as the first aircraft to land at Louis Trichardt. So that was an honor and a privilege to do that. And Derek Kirkland, who was the OC, Colonel Derek Kirkland, of the base at that stage, and all the base people were there. And it was an exciting event, I must say everybody was excited. You can think about you moving a full squadron into a new base. The technology, the workshops, and so on were phenomenal. So the ground crew under Jan Ross from 5 Squadron perspective, Fossi, who was the armament officer. So they had a team there which really worked day and night, and that specifically the first year to get the squadron going. And we wanted to be operational as quickly as possible. But there was a lot of testing still to do, weapons to be done, trials to be done, missiles to be fired to see how all of those work. So Des Barker and them were involved with that. So it was really a collaborative effort between the squadron, the base, head office, the depots, the various depots, and between the squadrons. With Carlo Gagiano there, myself, we realized that the two-seater one had a navigator, so Carlo had a contingent of navigators. So that means, from an operational perspective, if you mix the two-seaters with the E's, with single-seater ones, then you've got a formidable force. So the navigator, you can concentrate on flying, the weapons delivery, everything. The navigator would do the nabbing and so on, and with the systems, it was very difficult to not hit the target on the right time. So we trained together. We went on camps together, or even our survival camps. When we had a survival camp, we took them with as well, to their dismay. But that obviously was good as well. So we flew against the other aircraft. Obviously, we had some advantages, but in terms of, I think, from an air superiority fighter, the F-1C and so on was still better. From a range perspective, the AZ was still better. We although we had some extra fuel, we didn't have that range. But it was a nice challenge with the initial pilots, Jeff Garrett, Don Conradi, Pine Pinar were the initial ones. Anton Kick and them, and some head office pilots flew with us as well. And then the new pilots started coming in. We had a wonderful honorary colonel, Grant Murray. He was an old 5 Squadron CF pilot, and he was wonderful. So he could do all the ceremonial things that I didn't want to do, and I could continue with the operational stuff. So that was really the 5 Squadron start from a pilot's perspective. I had the most wonderful team of technical people. Both SAAF, Atlas, it was a mixed team. Jan Ross and Fossi and them did a wonderful job managing them. The new things they brought in, there was one guy, Bart Guetta, there that he started off with, so if we deploy, he started off building workshops. He scrounged some old containers and then brought them in there and converted them into mobile workshops to no additional cost for the SAAF. And it enhanced our operational availability and maintainability of the aircraft off-site tremendously. So there was really some innovative things that happened. So that was really the time at 5 Squadron. We had some good camps in Uppington, and we were just ready, operationally ready, when and then the negotiations started. So the Cheetah E and E2 was never operationally deployed. I left the squadron in December 1990. And then Anton Kik, who was my 2IC, and he was also the project officer, as I mentioned earlier on in South Africa. He took over the Kepriosi there, and then Ian Jones took over as OC, and then the squadron really closed in 1992. Yeah, when Ian Jones was OC. And then at that stage, the second Cheetah project with Clive Turner was on its way, and maybe you should speak to Clive and let him tell you about that side, because that's the Cheetah that everybody is talking about, and so on. The E really was below, under the horizon type of thing, and yes, there is one at the museum. So if you want to go and see it, but it's a ground attack tactical aircraft and an exceptional aircraft to fly, the best we had at that time. So thanks, Chris. That's the Cheetah story from my side.
Well, thank you, Commandant. I've got a lot of questions, if you don't mind, sir. You know, the first time I saw a Cheetah, any variant of it, I thought it was in Israeli kefir. If I say that word correct, I think it means lion or something.
Kefir, the kefir, yeah, it's a young lion. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Any truth in that? So parts perhaps swapped or anything like that?
There was a lot of the kefir in the Cheetah in terms of electronics systems and so on. It was like the canard. The kefir has a canard as well, but it's a much larger canard. The kefir had the J79 American engine in, which obviously had much more thrust than we had. But and then the wings, our wings were corroded, so we changed the wings and a stronger undercarriage, which was very much associated with that. Some of the technology and modifications we did ourselves, but mostly it was the systems that were in the kefir that were built into the Mirage 3. But the aircraft and the airframes were all ours, so they were the original Mirages that we purchased, and they were upgraded. But only the E variants, as I mentioned, the C was not upgraded.
And the Mirage 2000, any parts of him inside the E model?
Not at all. French played no role whatsoever, and it was really Atlas and I that really ran the whole thing. And Atlas managed the technical side from a manufacturing perspective.
Yeah, I just want to know, was this how do I describe this aircraft, sir? Because I keep on saying the Mirage Cheetah, but then people complain. Well, what should I call it to be technically correct? It was called the Cheetah. It wasn't the Mirage at that stage. So it was the Cheetah, and it was the Cheetah E, the Cheetah D, R2, and then it became the Cheetah C, which had the upgraded radar, phenomenal radar and systems, and was really the air superiority fighter. So that was really the one which you saw at air shows, up till when 92, when I can't remember, I think 2008 or whenever they closed the squadron. That was a totally different aircraft to the E. The E was the pioneer one, along with the D2. I was told somewhere that the Mirage 3 pilots had a strange name for the F1 pilots. I don't know if you know about that, so I can't remember exactly what they called them.
No, because I know the one squadron guys was the ones they called Fatties and Monies, and the Billy Boys. They were the Billy Boys. They were big pilots. Those guys, but they played a massive role in the war. So the F1AZ and the CZ played a major role there, and that's where the book what the big diaries, explains it quite nicely as well. Yeah, so the three squadron were the Hornets, but I can't remember that they had a nickname. You must ask Koos to read that when you speak to him again. You'll know all these stories. So so just ask him.
I will definitely do that. Just want to tell you guys out there, yes, we're going to record an episode with the Mick Diaries people. If you haven't read the damn book, read it. I'm telling you, it will open, especially for us who's not in the Air Force. So, that book really opened my eyes. So Cobus Turin will be there, as well as Lionel Reed. And I'm still hoping that perhaps a Cuban colonel, but I doubt it. But, you mentioned something very interesting to me, because we're also supposed to record Colonel John French from the Army. And Colonel French claim to fame is that he changed the eland, or he changed the Panhard armored car to the eland. And the reason why we did it is because South Africans tends to be bigger than the French, and they had bigger feet. And therefore we needed bigger space for your feet in the front. And they also changed the engine, I think, and something about the gearbox. I'm tempted to say there's other parts of the South African males also bigger, but let's not go there. Let's not go that way. But John French, actually, I still have to record him. So he told me about this fight which you had with a Cheetah name, where the army said they're going to use it for an armored car or something, and you people said no. Yeah, but why the Cheetah? Why did you get to it? Is because of the history of a squadron?
Yes, the 2 Squadron was known as the Flying Cheetahs. They had a cheetah, a tame cheetah as well. And if you look back at the Korean War, there's some photographs of the cheetah there. If you look at when the Mirage 3s came in and they went to 2 Squadron as well, there was also a cheetah there. There was a tame cheetah that walked around there as well. So 2 Squadron were renowned. They were known as the Cheetah Squadron. So you'll see if you look at the squadron badge and so on as well, you'll see the cheetah in there. So the history in terms from a defense force perspective is that it's always been part of the Air Force, and at that stage we had a lot of debates at the squadron at Hoedspruit in terms of what the name should be. So they came up with a lot of suggestions, but every time we came just back to the fact that it has to be the cheetah, and we then presented this to Air Force headquarters and said this is what we would like to do, and they totally supported it. And as I said, if Jan Gey didn't do what he did at that stage, it wouldn't have been that way. So he played a major role in the naming convention of the aircraft itself. But it worked well. I think that it worked very well. So.
Yeah, it worked well. It's really nice. I know that John French also said to me that the Army was planning to build their own aircraft, some kind of ground support thing. But I'll get the story from him. Apparently,
I can remember something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was something
bad. One of the Army Air Force type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like following the American system. I don't think it mixed well, but that's just my opinion. Let us not get into trouble here. I want to ask you a technical question, say in my stupid way, being non-technical. Well, I've been told if you take a Cheetah, and let's say it's the E variant, in a very tight turn, so like in a dog fight, that there would be trails left by that canard little wings behind the pilot, and then it's easier to spot. Is there any truth in that, or is it just a story?
The trails you get on the wing tips or on the canard tips and so on is due to condensation in the air. So it's not it's not that. So if it's on your aircraft, it will be on the other side's aircraft as well. So it's not going to. So no, I don't think there's anything to do with that.
Right, no, that's good. There's an Israeli officer who said to me he refused to come online, but I spoke to him about some of the thing book I was writing. And he said to me that they actually claim the fame that they made the Mirage free what it became during the Six-Day War as a superb dogfighter because they added 2 cannon to it, 50 millimeters. On their insistence, the Dassault didn't want to do it. They were thinking of going like the Phantom missiles only. But we're
Yeah.
talking 50s now. So my question to you, sir, is were you people always thinking of putting a gun, 20 mil or whatever you have here on the Cheetah? Was it part of a design right from the beginning?
No, that was the Mirage had 230 millimeter deeper cannons. So the Cheetah, obviously, because we didn't change that side of the weapon system, we added some hard points for bombs. So the cannons were still there, exactly the same as they were, much more accurate with the new weapon sight with the head-up display and so on. So it wasn't part of the project. It was a given. It was part of it, and there's no way we would have let them go. So it just made sense.
Okay, no, well, this is fascinating because I spoke to some Rhodesian pilots who also served on the Mirage Freeze. And I believe Murray, might have been Murray. Yeah, he later became a Qantas pilot. And he mentioned something where he said one of the Rhodesian ground crew sorted something out of a Mirage in terms of its gun sight or the bombing site or something like that, which a factory didn't sort out. But I never went into it. Do you know anything about it? Because it would have something to do with the accuracy of a Cheetah, I suppose, or was it a totally, completely new avionics from Israel?
You're talking about Steve Murray, who's quite a famous underpilot as well. And he's also, I think he's in the process of writing a book, or he may have written it already, on the Hunter. The sites, we need to harmonize the sites all the time. So you needed to set the aircraft, harmonize it, and make sure that the accuracy is correct. So there was a continuous process with regard to that. On the Cheetah, that whole system was changed. So we had electronic throughout. There was the inertial navigation system. The computers were state-of-the-art computers at that stage. So you didn't need that harmonizing as we did with the old sites that we had. So.
I will tell you people, if you haven't seen the episode, go and look. I will leave a link where Steve Murray actually became sort of a test pilot at the age of 75 or around about there. Because what happened is he came onto Legacy, and then one of the SAAF people, Lieutenant Colonel Laurens Basson, former flight test engineer, working in Canada on some kind of a flight test school. And then they had a Hunter standing there, nobody knew how to fly it, or something like that. And so he happened to have seen Steve Murray talk on Legacy, and so they flew Steve Murray in to go and teach him how to fly that thing. Amazing story, amazing things what happened here. But we heard another rumor, so perhaps you can dispel it for me. I heard an Air Force officer, he wasn't a pilot, but he looked like he knew what he was talking about. He was trying to impress us. We were young policemen. He said, if you come in with a Mirage quickly enough in a dive and you're strafing the enemy, it is very possible that that cannon shell will bounce up and get him on the other side. So we had to turn left or right away from the trajectory which they were shooting. And I said, sir, but we don't know if it doesn't explode, what way it's going to go. Because, that shell, if it hits a human being, it can go any damn way. It's not going to go straight. But he was adamant about that. And then I said, but sir, what I've seen is on the border area anyway, it's soft sand. Why will it bounce? Anyway, any truth in that rumor, sir?
I don't know of any ricochet on any aircraft. And you break away. So once you fire, you break away from the target in any case. So, and you don't watch where your rockets or your bullets go, else you may just follow them into the ground. And I lost my best friend that way. So so you don't do do that. So to my knowledge, I've never heard that you normally break away before where the well, you don't really fly over the target. You break away as quickly as possible.
I also want to mention here that when these flying cheetahs were flying in Korea, by the end of the war, there was a command from a brigadier general of the US Air Force, where he said that the stem of South Africa, that's the national anthem, would be played, the first bars of it, before the American one anthem, out of respect towards the SAAF. And I also, it's true, sir. You know about that.
Yeah. They also, all two squadron pilots had a citation, a blue citation, which which you could wear while you were on the squadron, because of our contribution.
Yeah,
there's some fascinating stories with regards to that.
Yeah, we really have to get hold of him because they were famous in two things. I also recall my wife when I first met her, she came to South Africa, my late wife, and she started doing what I would call a very bad imitation of a Zulu dance. And I asked her, where the hell did you learn this? Because she was even crying out like a Inky would do. There's no way she could speak Zulu. And I was thinking, what the hell's wrong with her? Yeah. And then she said, no, she was actually one day, she had to divert. And she landed at the Air Force base. And she slept over in the officer quarters, and of course they had a few drinks at Manasi at the mess. And then these guys started doing these strange dances, which I said is a Zulu dance, and then it came out, they learned it from the South Africans. There was a South African pilot shot down and rescued, and he slept over at this base in Korea, and then he taught them how to do the Zulu dance. And so we still do it. After all these years, 50 years later, what do you know? So yeah, this is fascinating. But the Cheetah, how good would it have been against the MiG-23s? I know it's a question which we can't answer because they never went up. But did you fancy your chances? Did you think you had at least had a fighting chance against them?
The MiG-23 in terms of power to weight ratio was exceptional. So basically, you could, if you read the MiG diaries and so on, you can. What those MiG guys did was they just open their throttles and they fly away, so you can't catch them. From an instantaneous turn performance, I'm sure we would turn inside them, but they had frontal. That stage, they had frontal missiles, which they would fire outside our range. So I don't think, to be honest, that you would have had a chance against, unless you go straight into a dog fight, and then in close, you'd be able to turn into it and then get a missile or a cannon off. But they won't allow you to go, to get into that position. So they'll disengage by opening their throttles and getting away. So a guy to possibly ask is Pine Pinar. He was one of the first pilots on my squadron. Pine, Jeff Garrett, Don Conradi were the three first pilots. And he flew MiG-23s afterwards. So he flew the Cheetah E and he flew MiG-23s. So he can have an interesting chat to him and see. But I don't believe that the F1 had problems against them. So we didn't have the radar or so on to do it. And the Cheetah C, I think with the systems, the radar systems and so on, stronger engine would have had a better chance. But the E, where we had 13,500 pounds of thrust, so not much. And you bled your speed quite quickly. So in a dogfight, your sustainable turning performance is important. and that wasn't that good.
As I understood it, the major problem here was that you could not engage from approaching each other, and they could with the missiles. You had to get a D6 behind him to launch your own missiles, which weren't that good to begin with.
Yeah, but with the V3 and the helmet sight and so on the Cheetah, and we had them on the E, is that in the dogfights we had with the F1s and so on, is that I remember one where I did get locked on head on and so on, and fired. So at that stage with the missile technology, yes, but like Arthur Piercy and those guys, they didn't even know that the MiG-23s had frontal missiles.
Do you know, sir, why did the Air Force keep the capability to refuel in the air so secret? Why was that not told until almost after the war?
The air refueling capability, look, there was air refueling capability with the Buccaneers, so you could refuel, one buck could refuel from another buck. So the Boeings themselves were really in the same era as the Cheetah E. So the first ones were there. We were the first ones to do the air refueling. I still did the pod, the refueling pod test flights with the Cheetah E and the Boeing. So that was in that period of 88, 89, which I mentioned when I was a fire squadron. So it was still very new at that stage. And I think that there's those aircraft weren't only for air refueling; they were also radar warning aircraft and so on. So I think that the whole capability was kept secret from that perspective. I wasn't part of that. The guy who's also with my chatting, Koos de Villiers, he's an engineer from Atlas. He ran those projects. He was involved in the Russian side and so on as well. He was with us in Israel as well. So he has a lot of knowledge around that side, which can help, which I find help you.
How comfortable is it to sit in a fighter aircraft strapped in like you are with the sun burning your head for an hour or two?
I don't think it's the time that you're in the aircraft flying that's the issue. We never really flew very long. I think the longest was during that air refueling flight. I think I flew 3.5 hours. So that was really the longest flight. But so we fly 40 minutes, we fly an hour and a half, say on a tactical exercise and so on. So it was never long. You air conditioned, so while you're flying, it's not an issue. It was while you're sitting in cockpit standby at Ondangwa. That's when things are all. If you're on a camp in Bloemfontein in the middle of winter, you need a takeoff at just as soon as the sun rises, and you sit on cockpit standby minus something. Those are the uncomfortable times I can remember in the cockpit. But the flying side, I'm not a big guy, so I felt quite comfortable in the cockpit.
We had Arthur Piercy on here telling his story. And I always had the feeling that there was an unwritten rule, perhaps some pressure, not to eject, but to keep that aircraft frame, if possible, in one piece. Was there such pressure, sir, or wasn't there? Or did it depend entirely on the pilot?
There was never an expectation from you to stay in the aircraft at all. So I think I got shot by a missile at Umkiva, and the only thing that worries me is I didn't want to eject right there, because I was sure that there were quite a number of people who were quite angry at me at that stage of the game. So I just wanted to get away from it. So the ejection never really worried. in that sense, and I didn't need to, but at any time I could have ejected it if it was required. And I think Arthur was very much in the same way, involved in the same decisions, but we were never forced or said that we must stay with the aircraft. And then I ejected out of a Cheetah at ground level, so there's no, there's no consequences or anything. So it's your backside that you need to rescue this at that time, and it's quick. So you make a decision and then you can continue with it. And the circumstances in his case was to there was that I think he may have taken, just in hindsight, because he did a magnificent job, because he flew the aircraft on its on a little throttle at the side with an oil throttle. It's a challenge, and not having a drag chute at Rundu and so on. Even in Ondanga with a slightly better runway, I felt challenged in the sense to land there with that your controls are 100% there. But no, so there's no pressure with regards to that. And I think Arthur did a magnificent job. It was just not his day.
Yeah, we were very impressed with him. It's one of our highlights of our legacy conversations is his video. And we wish him, of course, all the best. I just want to say to you guys out there, I am speaking to Air Force people to make an episode of a Caterpillar Club, which I'm sure, sir, you are one of them. So perhaps you can explain what I mean when I say that. It's a few, isn't it? There's not a lot of you who were actually ejected and lived.
Yeah, but there. If you look at Martin Baker's history, there are thousands that the ejection seat have helped you with. I was fortunate that our exit, the Mark 10 that we had is a 0-0 seat. So I ejected off the ground. So Arthur did not have that. So that's why he hurt himself as he did. So the ejection technology, I think, is really been phenomenal, and it saved a lot of pilots. I was quite glad I had that seat under my backside at that stage. So it happens quickly.
This ejection seat of Martin Baker, or one you used to eject, so it's not the same as the one in the old Thunderbirds or 105s. We had like spurs on their heels to strap their feet in before we could eject. This is Vietnam era, 20, 30 years before.
No, we had, you see it on the photographs and stuff, is that we had a white lanyard that went down your sleeves on your flight suit, and then you also have leg straps when you strap in. So as soon as you eject, your legs get pulled in, and your arms get pulled so that they don't flap around. So that's all part of the system, and even the older ejection seats had the leg straps there. So it's only with the Mark 10 that we had the shoulder arm straps as well.
Do you, when you go out of it, do you lose consciousness, or are you aware of what's happening around you, or is it just too quick?
It's very quick, and I just thought that I just said to myself, "Get it, there's donors here." I can remember those words went through my mind because I compressed my T7 or something like that, slightly. So it was quite painful, and I cut the canopy, something cut my head. But so it happens in the split of a second. It was, so you don't have time to really think about all these things. And the next moment, specifically on a 0-0 situation like with me, I had forward speed, so it wasn't really zero. It was just zero at first. I was from the ground. Is that it's quick. You go up 80 feet or whatever, your parachute opens, and then before you know, you hit the ground. So there's no time to enjoy the flight at that stage, to look around. So it happens very.
So how much paperwork are there? So once such a thing happens, what would the Air Force do to you?
No, the Air Force are very, very professional in the sense of doing the board of inquiry. Des Barker was still, he personally went and did it. They couldn't find anything, in my case, they couldn't find anything wrong. Because I lost power on takeoff. So you don't have a lot of time to think at that stage. And so I was put under hypnosis, to see whether there was a pilot error. And up till today, I'm not sure. Maybe it was. I don't know. I just know that I lost power. But technically, they couldn't find it. One Koos was in during that flight safety, and he wrote a thing on one of the magazines there at that stage, and he said I took too long to eject. So he was quite critical of it. You don't know. When you're in that situation, you must make a decision. Whether it's right or wrong is immaterial. So you must just do what you have to do.
Well, I'm glad you survived, so I'm really happy about that. I'm thinking now, we're speaking to Johan Conradi too about the Buccaneers. And he said there was one flight where they took off with rocket assistance from Waterkloof. This must be in the 60s. And something went wrong with the rockets. They engaged it too late or too early, and it burned out. And this guy just couldn't gain height. And so he had to go almost at grass level for quite a few miles before he could build up speed to get out. And I wonder, in such a situation, even if it's not better just to eject and get done, but I suppose they didn't have 0 seats either. I mean, and the pilot instinctively will do what he thinks is right. That's training.
Yeah, I think the situation, the context is always, I think, important. You won't just eject just for the sake of ejecting in that sense. So you'll stay until you see, okay, this is now gone beyond saving, and then you'll get out. You've got enough time to get out with specifically with the current technology. I think any pilot at that stage, I don't know the story of the back, but is that you'd lose power, you'd control it. If it was at Waterkloof, then you remember, depending which way you're taking off, there's a lot of housing and everything around Waterkloof itself. So you won't just abandon the aircraft, because it'll go into buildings and so on. So you'll stay with the aircraft and try and maneuver it at least. And then you'll have a reasonably good, I think, idea as to whether you're going to make it out, whether not.
I'll ask you a last question, sir. Do you have any advice to a young pilot here, or perhaps somebody who thinks he's got what it takes to fly a fighter jet?
If you want to fly, just do it. It's a passion. It's something. I think only a person that's part of that can understand it. It's something you want to do, and then you must just go and do it. I can remember they tried to convince me that that was the one question that I believe the most important one that they ask in all boards of inquiries is, why do you want to fly? And my answer was, I've always wanted to fly. So that's the answer that you must give as well. And then they tried to convince me to become a navigator, and I said, no, I don't want to be a navigator. I want to be a pilot. So you need to be convinced in yourself that that's what you want to do, and then you must work at it to get it. And we had wonderful opportunities through the Air Force. And most of those that I flew with were there for the flying. They were not there for anything else. So just follow your dreams and work at it, and it'll come to what you want to let it become. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, sir. We really appreciate. We want to invite you back. I would definitely want to know about the vampire. I understand the thing has a howling sound, which is like a vampire. When you start off, there's so many things we can still talk about. But at least now we know something about the E, the Cheetah E, and I'm most grateful to you. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Koos, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the chat. Thanks a lot. Good luck with you.
Thank you to all of those who have so graciously contributed to my Buy Me a Coffee page. I do thank you, and I appreciate that you have found value in what I do on the channel. I also have to thank Koos and Rebecca, obviously, for allowing me to do so, to place my link. Also, remember, I have said all the contributions I'm planning to add to our endeavor to get to South Africa. At some point, I'm hoping this year. I'm trusting this year. So once again, you're not seeing my face, you're seeing some nice backdrop. And you can find the links below in the description. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to receive notifications.